Welcome, time for some art fun. Today, we're going to fill some spreads in this sketchbook and maybe even finish it up, so stick around. If you've been around this channel for any length of time, you probably know that I always like to have a cheap sketchbook and a fancy sketchbook. This is my Etcher Lab A4, so it's giant, hot pressed 220 gram cotton paper, and I just painted the cover recently. I'm still deciding if I want to seal the front. I actually have the little version outside right now. I sprayed it to see how it would go. So if that works out, I'll spray this to keep it nice and pretty. But I'm not ready to work in this one yet until this one is a little more full. I have 7 pages left, but I've been working in this one since October 28th, right around when I started this channel, late October of last year. And this was one of my first videos. I painted all 4 of these pandas on a plane ride. So now I'm all the way back here. I just did this guy. And I have 7 full page spreads left. And what I wanted to do today was twofold. I want to start to get closer to finishing this sketchbook up, so to fill up as many of these full page spreads as I can. And then of course we'll do a sketchbook tour once it's full. But I also wanted to show you how you might try to paint from your head. That is a big issue for me. I like to use reference, and that's great. Obviously, I love my art, and most of my art is from reference. Like these were all from reference pictures, but I would love to get to a place where I can paint more from my head. And anytime I do, I always feel so accomplished. And this one was from my head, this painting, and it's a popular one for me on Instagram and a popular video here for me on my channel. So even though this is from my head with no reference, it worked out really well. And so I wanted to show you when I do paint from my head, sort of how I do it. So play along with me, get some materials out, whatever you want to play with today, watercolor, ink, gouache, colored pencil, whatever you want, and let's play. So first, a disclaimer. This is not something I would consider myself good at. It's something that I want to get better at. And to do that, I have to practice. And if I'm going to practice and try things, I want to bring you along with me so you can see success and failure and just see the kinds of things that I do. This is how I develop my skill, and how I'm able to do things that I am really proud of is by also doing things that are wonky or weird or I don't know how I feel about. I did actually like how all of this stuff turned out that I'm going to show you today, but there's 0% chance that I know that as I'm doing it. So there are 2 different approaches, both of which I'm going to show you. One is this approach of just sort of playing with color and making random marks without any plan whatsoever. And then when I'm done, I look at it and say, what does this sort of look like to me? And then I go with that. So with this one on the right, these look like turtles to me. And so I went with a turtle theme. I did not look at any sort of reference picture. I just went with my memory of kind of what turtle bodies look like. I would use water to lift some of the ink to lighten up areas that I needed to. Like I didn't know this was going to have a head, so I lightened up the area where there would now be a head. I used black pen, permanent black pen, to delineate some of the darker features and give it sort of an outline. I also used white pen for that eventually. I used this opaque Turner acrylic gouache to try to paint on top of the ink because some of the black ink wasn't showing up on the purple ink here, because the purple ink, which does sheen a lime green, that's that lime green you're seeing, is just the sheen on this really beautiful Lamy Azurite ink. And black pen was just getting sucked right into it. And actually this acrylic gouache got sucked into it. It was like a black hole of ink. So things didn't show up the same way I thought they would, but that's part of the experiment. And I really like how that turtle came out. So while I was waiting for the Turner acrylic gouache to dry on that first turtle, I started working on this second turtle in the top right, this pink turtle. And actually the pink ink there sheens green as well, even though that's just the pink ink over there. Then I started working on this turtle, and making this look like a shape and giving it an eye and its little legs and arms and stuff. And I just kept going with it and going with it. That's really how it works, is I just start with basic shapes and then I refine. So I thought to myself, okay, what's usually something I do when I do a turtle? Well, I usually like to put these sort of scales, and that's something that indicates that it's a turtle. So I started adding the scales everywhere and making sure everyone had eyes. And this one that was from above was the hardest. I actually went off camera to get him a little more together with the white pen because it was hard for me to remember or imagine what eyes of a turtle would look like from above. And so I just took some time to make that one work. And then over here on the right, I thought that bottom right turtle was a little too dark, and so I tried to lighten it up using white paint, and the ink just got into the white paint and I went with that, and I was like, all right, well, I guess this will just be a pale blue. The idea is that things are just going to go totally wrong, but I don't know that you could call it wrong if there's no plan. And there's no plan when I'm making stuff up from my head. There's no vision overall, other than like with this is a good example of the extent of a vision. When I looked at this purple inside of the blue, it looked like a stegosaurus to me. So I decided to make a stegosaurus sitting down and reaching for the turtles and basically just pretend they're all underwater together and that the turtles are looking at the stegosaurus and sort of confused why they're swimming by a stegosaurus sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And so I just had to kind of work with it. I couldn't figure out what a stegosaurus face looks like. I kind of made it look like a horse. I cannot remember for the life of me how a stegosaurus's face looks, and that's part of painting from your head. You might not remember what things look like. You might not remember what a turtle's face would look like from above, and you just kind of go with it and just let yourself be creative and just create something from your head from scratch. The idea of creating it from your head for me is it's not going to look like any picture because the picture doesn't exist. The picture is a mental picture in your head. And so I can't often come up with that just from scratch. It's from the materials. So having something down that inspires me and then I work with it on the page like this. And this is how something like that would look, the first approach of the two that I'm going to share with you. I think that because the ink is so interesting, these little turtle boys came out super cute. Like I love these little babies. I think they're adorable. I really like how the stegosaurus came out. I think it looks like a little stuffed animal. And that's my thing. That's my jam. So I loved that page. I think it's really interesting looking, especially with all the different sheening inks that I used. So that's how this final product looks. Very random. You'll probably notice it doesn't look like anything I normally make, and that's the point. I normally work from a reference, and these are examples of working without reference. So here's the second approach that I use when I want to create something without reference. I come up with an idea of an animal or a landscape or something, and then I try my best to come up with what it might look like and make the basic shapes of that animal. In this instance, I wanted to do an armadillo because my friend Moni D. Major here on YouTube, she has an amazing channel, definitely check her out. She sent me a message saying that her favorite animal is an armadillo and she thinks they're cute. And I have to tell you, I've never thought of an armadillo as a cute animal. It never occurred to me. So I just thought to myself, well, let me see if I can make a cute armadillo. And it's not like we have them near me. I live in Colorado. I've never seen one in person, maybe at the zoo or something, but not that I would remember. And I thought, okay, I'll just make one. So I made a shape. And then when I made the head, I thought to myself, you know what? That head doesn't look like it's in the right spot. So I tried to redraw it and then I just left the butt and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, these are going to be two snuggling armadillos. So I drew a second head. And that's how this second approach works for me. I try to draw shapes. I try to make it look like what I'm thinking it might look like from memory. And then I just do my best to go with whatever I'm drawing. Here, normally I might have erased that first butt because it was too big for the head that I had drawn and I liked the head so much, that's what I wanted to keep. And I thought I could redraw the butt a little more easily, which was true. But in this instance, I went with that other butt and just made it a second armadillo so I could have an armadillo snuggle, which sounded even cuter to me. So I got my grabby paint pens out. These are sort of like Posca dupe. I really like them. I have a review here on them. I can link that for you. And I use those for the colors. And this is sort of me deciding what colors I might use because I'm coming up with the color scheme at the same time. And I wanted a darker color for the armadillo in the back. And then I was trying to think what I was going to do for the color in between the ridges. Like would I do this pale pink or an orange or something? In the end, I decided to go with a whole different art material for that part and do watercolor because I wanted something really pale and that I could control in the detail on the face. And so that's how I made that decision. But again, I just decided what kind of animal do I want to draw, go with the shapes and kind of let what I'm drawing tell me what I should draw next, I guess is the way to put that. And then once I have the art materials started, then if I want to, because I'm a multimedia artist, expand into other art materials, I go with it. And going with it is sort of the theme of this whole tutorial or idea session, brainstorming session that we're having here, of trying to help you decide how might you get a little brave in your sketchbook and mess it up, like get a little messy. I got these blue ink stains from that first page over every single page from here on out, which you'll see on the left and on the right, and in every other drawing. And when I do my sketchbook tour of this sketchbook, you will see those ink stains. And so, like, this sketchbook isn't actually going in a museum, is my guess. I don't think I'll ever get to that point where my sketchbooks are going in a museum like Da Vinci. So why not mess them up and get some ink on there, get some watercolor stains on there? Like, who cares? It just looks used. It looks like it's been loved and used to me, and I really like that. So in the end, on this one, I actually did end up putting washi tape on the sides just because I have a really pretty washi tape that kind of mimics the skin on the tail, the like little animal skin on the tail of these that I drew, and I wanted that in this particular page. But on the other pages, they're just going to be there, and it's fine. So again, the theme is like, we're going with it, people. So I used raw umber violet, I believe, for the in-between parts on the back, and I used tundra orange on the in-between parts and the guy in the front, and also for the shadows under their tails. I use those same colors, and for their faces and for the little scales on their foreheads. I used those watercolors to get those details. And then the final thing that I did was used forest blue super granulating watercolor on the under part of these guys right here to give them their sort of placement on the page, that they're casting a shadow on the page. So these are my armadillo snuggle babies. I love how they came out. I just seriously, if you had told me that I was going to be able to make cute armadillos, but like at all, let alone from my head, I really wouldn't have believed you. My husband is always saying, like, why do you say you never draw from your head? Or you get mad when I ask you, oh, did you come up with that from your head? I kind of get frustrated because I usually don't. I usually use a reference picture, and sometimes as an artist I get a little sensitive. I get a little butthurt, as we say here in Colorado. If someone says, oh, did you make that up? And I didn't, I feel kind of like, does that mean I'm a less good artist? Am I lesser than as an artist because I don't really think of stuff from my head that often? No, I think I'm a really good artist, and I'm really proud of my art. And I think the only reason I'm able to do this is because I do so much art using reference, and that really helps my confidence. So I hope this helps your confidence and that you get your sketchbook out and just play around and mess around and see what you can make. If you liked the video, please remember to leave a like below. If you're not subscribed, I would so appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. And until next time, remember, create something cute.